Hello, my name is Arnaud Comet. I'm very pleased today to present Azure Synapse Link for Azure Cosmos DB. I'm a principal program manager in Azure Synapse Analytics, and I have been working on Azure Synapse Analytics since the beginning. And more recently, I have worked with the Cosmos DB team to bring Synapse Link for Cosmos DB and integrate that experience into Synapse Analytics. Today we are going to look on how you can build a connected analytics hub with Azure Synapse Link. So it's not just about Synapse Link for Cosmos DB, but also bringing data lake with Cosmos DB data, because serverless SQL pool has the capability to query multiple data sources together. You create a database, create tables and views within that database. Then you can use a Power BI report connecting to that database and query in place without data movement this data. So we will show you that and how it can be done for real-time analytics with Synapse Link. The agenda for today is simple. As the first part, we'll have an overview of Synapse Link for Cosmos DB. And then the second part, we'll look at how it integrates with Synapse Analytics. There we will see that we are solving which pain points we are solving, and also what are the overall benefits for customers. Third part is around roadmap. You will want to know when we are going to expand to other databases, and as well understand all the areas of enhancement for Synapse Link for Cosmos DB. We'll close that session with a demo where we build from scratch a Power BI report bringing Cosmos DB data and data lake together into a report, a real-time report. Let's have an overview of Synapse Link now. Building an application, getting a database that can service application is really important. Azure Cosmos DB has proven to be one of the best databases in the world to serve modern application for massive ingest, update, insert, delete, or VLOOKUP for an application to read and write into Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB provides industry-leading SLAs for that, and it's really good. And however, there is a second half of the story that's now complete with Synapse Link. It's the ability for customer user to generate new business opportunity from new insight they can get from Cosmos DB. Doing that directly over a transactional store, a transactional database, has always been a challenge with any databases. And oftentimes the options available for customer when they want to run analytics have some pain points. And we are going to show you the options first on what people are doing. First option is a simple one. It looks simple on paper. I connect directly from my Spark runtime into Cosmos DB or a dashboard over Cosmos DB. Those runtime, those dashboards are going to, when they are connected and they are accessing the transactional store, they will generate tons of even for BI report like queries, and that will have a huge impact on the performance of the OLTP workload. So usually what customer needs to do is they need to over provision, because these queries, these analytical queries, not only they are expensive, but they are like unpredictable when they happen. And so as volume of operational data increase, as well latency of those analytical queries increase, and you need to provision more and more resources. So this is really not recommended for a large amount of data. This is why in many analytical tools to say, hey, if you use federated queries, do that for infrequent access, exploration, or just on small data sets. The other side is bringing this data, separating OLTP and OLAP, and create processes to bring your data from Azure Cosmos DB into a lake as raw data set, then use some Spark to transform this data, put them into golden data sets, back into the lake, load this data into your data warehouse, and from a data warehouse, usually it's staging tables, you will want to have a table optimized for analytics. So you can count, it's resource intensive, it creates duplication of data. And so you have to as well maintain that kind of process. And you will be good if you are actually being able to get this data once every hour. But most of the time people do once a day at night when the system is running all the transformation. And you should think about managing data format. In modern application and modern databases, you need to be able to have a schema-less type of database like Cosmos DB. So you can really like create add a new data types, new data into the system, new columns into your document, and maintaining that in your analytical layer is extremely expensive and tough. So this is what we do in Synapse Link. We are breaking that barriers by bringing Cosmos DB into Synapse, by creating an analytical store that is always synced with the operational store and is directly accessible into Synapse. So we provide near real-time data analytics that do not have any performance impact on your transactional workloads. It doesn't cost any transactional, like you don't need to over provision to get Azure Synapse Link for Azure Cosmos DB. You don't need to manage ETL, and it's really a one-click way to get your data into Synapse. This is why today having 60 minutes in a session is more than enough, because the experience of using Synapse Link for Cosmos DB is simple. So now you are wondering, what are we doing behind the scene? So first you have your transactional store, your operational data in Cosmos DB. This is where they are stored internally in a row-oriented transactional store that is optimized for transactional read and write and operational queries. This is the first half. The second half is that we autosync, we mirror this transactional store, transactional data into an analytical data that are stored in a column store format optimized for analytical queries. It takes minutes to get this data synced from the store, the transactional store to the analytical store. All the schema changes are handled at this point in time by the analytical store and the service underneath doing that changes. You don't have to do anything. So you have the second part of the story. Now you have the third, is connecting that into Synapse with Azure Synapse Link. That's where you get both Spark or serverless SQL pool that can access this data in a single click. We'll show you in the demo how simple it is to bring data into Synapse from Cosmos DB. This allows you to interchangeably query the operational data in Cosmos DB using Spark and SQL, but also write back some data through the transactional store in Cosmos DB. Once you are connected, once you have Spark and SQL connected into Synapse Link, then it unleashes new scenarios, opportunity, AI scenario, big data scenario, and as well BI scenarios. Today we will look at the BI scenario on using serverless SQL pool. Now that you have had a good overview of what Synapse Link is, let me go over Synapse Analytics and how Synapse Link integrates within Synapse Analytics. First of all, let me start with an overview of Synapse Analytics. So you have Synapse Analytics. What does that do? You can imagine it's like a platform platform, and to connect to that platform, you need to have a data lake or Synapse link that you connect through, the platform capabilities of Synapse with the data integration, which is a way to connect to data using Synapse core platform management, security, monitoring, and Metastore capabilities to bring data lake store and Synapse Analytics connected to Synapse. Once you have connected into Synapse, you have SQL or Apache Spark pool that you can use. You can imagine you can use in SQL, you should think about Synapse SQL like as well providing multiple capabilities, not just to do interactive processing, but as well to do batch streaming and interactive. And you have Spark as well, that is on its own as well, a platform where you can use Python, Scala, and .NET to connect and process, query, analyze the data. In Synapse, you can use for SQL, you can use two form factors. One is dedicated SQL pool, which provides you dedicated SQL run capacity compute to access data, to process data. What I like with dedicated pool is that you have strong performance and predictable performance. You have serverless SQL pool, which gives you the capability to query the lake, to query Cosmos DB Synapse Link in a serverless fashion. So you do not say how much compute you need. You basically can start querying directly the lake or Synapse without provisioning any data. With that comes, it's really great for doing analytics over the lake, for doing data exploration, for even doing BI scenarios. We'll use that for BI scenarios. But when you want to have like data warehouse type of performance, you should use dedicated SQL pool. Dedicated SQL pool and dedicated SQL serverless are going to merge together into a single engine that have both the capability of serverless capability to query the lake, the logical data warehouse capabilities, and as well the capability of querying SQL format tables directly. Then you have Spark. Spark is used today in a serverless fashion. You are going to provision a Spark pool template, an Apache Spark pool template, where you are going to define min and max. Until you start running your job, you don't get charged. Once you run a job, that's where during the length of the job, when the job is finished, the Spark pool is going to be teared down and you stop billing. So it's really good from a consumption billing standpoint, where you really, both on the serverless side of SQL and Spark, you only consume data whenever you need it. When you think about SQL and Spark, it brings all those capabilities of SQL, Python, .NET, Java, Scala are together into, and it's up to you to decide which engine you want to use. On top of that, you should think about the Synapse Analytics Studio, which is a web interface. It's a SaaS developer experience for code free and code first. Indeed, through data integration, you can already start creating pipelines transformation without writing any single line of code. This is something we are going to expand into Synapse in the future, where we really want Synapse to be a code-free, low-code scenarios, both for AI, BI, and data engineering scenario. All of that is enabled that scenario I just mentioned, but you should think as well about this platform capability of single pane of glass for security management, monitoring, and Metastore to be there. Our vision is that with that single pane of glass, will provide ease of use for controlling, for accessing, but as well making data more actionable, discoverable. It has always been a trade-off to make data secure, well-governed, and democratizing access to data. Synapse enables both of these scenarios together. Now, in the context of Synapse Link, how to connect Synapse Link to Synapse Analytics? It's very simple. It's a 3-click experience. First, you go into the studio, you connect to external data. The next step, so you have your data hub and you connect to external data. The next step is authentication, creation of a connection, which database, which Cosmos DB account you want to connect to. Once you are there, the next step is using Spark, Apache Spark, or SQL command. Here it's a SQL gesture, select top 100. It's really good when you want to start, querying Cosmos DB, getting some code pre-generated for you, and then you can develop from there. And we do the same with Spark. You have, the ability to read data with a data frame, load to a data frame, create a Spark table, also write into a Cosmos DB, but that write will go to the operational store, or stream as well from a Cosmos DB container into the lake, or the opposite, from a lake into a Cosmos DB container. You can see that an HTAP container has the little bar chart here. That's what defines an HTAP container. If you don't have that, it means that you have only a transactional store enabled. So you should enable that. When you think about connecting, so that's the gesture, then you want to run some scenarios. First, let me go with Spark. You can analyze your data with Spark to first create Spark table. Whenever you need, as a Spark user, to have frequent access to data, you want this to be available, you want to create tables. Today it's not yet available, but it's on our roadmap that we will share, is whenever you will create a Spark table, it will automatically create a SQL table. So that's what we call interoperability. In Synapse today, you can create a Spark table over Parquet that will create as well a SQL serverless SQL table, and both tables will sync. So if something changes in one, it will automatically apply into the other. That's what we have, this common single pane of glass from a metadata, metastore standpoint. And we are going to develop that far, far more. Our goal is to have a Synapse database and Synapse table that both Spark SQL can access. We call it interoperability across engines, and we'll do that over Cosmos DB HTAP container. You can as well use data frames to read from Cosmos DB. It's very useful for batch or streaming processing and also machine learning, because from there you can use library over that data frame and start train your machine learning model and do even scoring. The next as well you can do, I explained before, you can write back. And that's going to go through the OLTP store, so that will consume request units when you do run this operation. One thing that I love with Spark is that you can connect through the link service that you created. So when you create Synapse Link, you are going with Spark to leverage the link service connection. So you don't need to put any code into that connection. It's just going to leverage that connection. So and it's a very simple way to say, okay, I want this link service, I want this container under that link service, and you can start loading into a data frame. So that's it for Spark. We have as well SQL, serverless SQL. You can query Azure Cosmos DB data in Synapse SQL serverless. So what are the 4 scenarios you can do? You can use that to run analytical T-SQL queries. So it has a very rich semantic for T-SQL that's available in Synapse SQL serverless, where you can query Cosmos DB in place in seconds. It's using open row set to connect to Cosmos DB. Similar to what you do in a data lake as well, it's using open row set. That capability of open raw set will be also available in a SQL pool when both engines converge. You can build near real-time dashboard, and that's what we will be doing today. You can start building a BI, integrate, create a database, put views under this database, and start creating dashboard report in a direct query mode with SQL serverless. You can as well use SQL Server to just do ad hoc query. I love to use SQL to query and do data exploration, more than data exploration, start building my own model and join to make sure that I can get the data that I need before getting them into Power BI. So I'm going to run through SQL queries to do that job before even starting a Power BI report. And finally, it's used as well for logical data warehouse. So you will be able to analyze Cosmos DB, Data Lake Store, and Blob Storage together and connect this data, join this data. We'll do a demo as part of today that will bring data from the lake and from Cosmos DB together. Synapse SQL serverless SQL pool is support for Cosmos DB is available in public preview since October 2020. There will be additional enhancement we are going to bring to when we GA that support, and we'll go over that in our roadmap scenario. Going back to the scenarios, so you bring your data sources, your data lake. You bring your Azure Cosmos DB through Synapse Link. You can use dedicated SQL pool, serverless SQL pool, or Spark, Apache Spark pool together. So it sounds like complicated, but basically it's connect this data to Synapse. Through Synapse Link, through our linked service from other data source, you can integrate that data by copying them into the lake or copying them into the data warehouse, what we call in a dedicated SQL pool. The scenario that you can enable are BI dashboard. Whenever you need to find answer to no questions, that's where to go. But as I explained, to get the answer to your question, I need to find that answer. And so I'm going to do some ad hoc data exploration with SQL Serverless or Apache Spark. Why Serverless SQL is good for that? It's because whenever I run some ad hoc queries, it's infrequent type of queries. And because I only pay for what I use, it's going to be a very cheap, inexpensive cost. And you can use Spark as well to run with Cosmos DB Synapse Link or Data Lake to run big data analytics for data preparation, curation, but also build and deploy machine model. You see here the connection, the tight integration we have between Spark and AML. And finally, you have data warehousing scenario. Nonetheless to say that connecting Power BI to a data warehouse is as well, it's a pattern, of course, so you can have that pattern. So now that you can better understand what Synapse Analytics is and how you connect Synapse Link into Synapse Analytics, and before jumping into the demo, I wanted to show you how the roadmap, what we are going to work on for Synapse Link. First, the roadmap is about deeper integration of Synapse Link into Synapse Analytics and also expanding to new sources. So in 2021, there are some of the public-facing big rock items that we have. Is first getting GA for Azure Cosmos DB Synapse Link in H1 2021. To do that, there will be two items like Synapse Manage VNet support for Cosmos DB, and also the ability for customer to take their existing Cosmos DB container into an analytical store and make them a NetStab container. Two other big rock items in Synapse to better integrate with Synapse Link for Cosmos DB are the support for Synapse Data Flow Pipeline in the analytical store. Today you can do that on the transactional store. We want also to make sure that the analytical store is integrated. And the last item is a very important one for Synapse, but it's as well for Synapse Link a native dedicated SQL pool support. So you will be able to query directly interactively Cosmos DB from your dedicated SQL pool. As well, in 2021, we'll be working to expand to other databases from Azure SQL Database, Azure PostgreSQL, or even application like Dynamics FNO. Synapse Link is a really big, important investment for Microsoft, for Azure data. And it will really help customers build a connected data hub for doing all of their analytics in single click. So that's our goal, and we will expand more. Let's now go into the demo. We are now at the part where we are going to look at the demo. That's the interesting part, where we will build a connected data analytics hub, leveraging Synapse Link and the data lake with serverless SQL pool together. So I'm really excited about that demo. In that demo, we will play the role of a manufacturing company that has devices located everywhere in the world. This company wants to make sure that all devices are operating correctly and get real-time signal on the devices and analyze that devices. The goal for that company is to proactively bring technicians when devices are likely to be defective very soon, so they can proactively check the device and replace them if necessary. To do that, we will first create a database with tables and views. Some of these tables will be over the lake and the views over Cosmos DB. So we'll show you how easy it is to build that kind of database in Synapse. The second step is an intermediary step. It's serverless SQL pool can infer schema in Cosmos DB. So that's a great feature. We are working, as you know, to bring as well the ability to, as an option, to say, when I have a lot of complex structures and arrays, please flatten that out for me. So that will bring that. In the meantime, we have a tool that I wanted to show you. If you have complex schema in Cosmos DB and you want to know what's the right query to write quickly, I will show you that tool. This tool has been developed by my colleague, Johan Popovic, on the serverless SQL team, who has worked on Cosmos DB as well with me. The third step is, okay, you have built your database, views, tables. Now let's run a query. I always like, as a data engineer, data analyst, I like to look at the data and try to explore the data, try to find the dimension. What do I need to have in my SQL query, a way to afterwards bring that kind of views and relationship into Power BI. So that's the way I work, and I wanted to show you that. So we'll run some queries to get the information that we need. Then the second half of that demo will be in Power BI. I will use Power BI Desktop where we will model a relationship across tables and views in that database. So we will, in direct query mode, we will get that database into Power BI that we created in Synapse and model that relationship. And then we will be able to create a dashboard. To that, I will use a performance analyzer to show you how SQL Serverless is powerful in getting data quickly and analyzing that data. But I will, as well as the last step, use that a very good feature that in Power BI, where you can have hybrid models where you will have some tables that you can have a direct query or some that you want to cache. And there is another mode that I like, it's dual storage, where it will be a combo between caching data and accessing data remotely. So I will show you the performance gain and how it can be implemented in your connected data hub in Synapse. So for now, let me go into my Synapse environment. So that's my Azure portal. This is my Synapse. Right now, there is no database. The only thing that's connected, that's the data lake, the main data lake, we call it the primary data lake, connected to my workspace. So that data lake has some information, my IoT data that I will use. In that analysis, we'll have three data sets in the lake, which are more dimension tables, small tables that have customer information, installation information, and product information. I'm now going to connect Cosmos DB data. You can view that as your operational data. And you can see the power of combining in Synapse Link, power of combining your business and operational data together. So to do the next step, you will see it's a one click almost. It's connecting my Cosmos DB database, IoT data, Cosmos DB. So it's my colleague Rodrigo. Voila, here. And I'm going to take that database, Synapse Link IoT demo. Let me test the connection. So it works. So now I create my connection to Cosmos DB. So let me refresh now. And you can see my Cosmos DB is there. So let me go over. So you see two containers. Here is my IoT data, my fact table that has a bunch of data from these devices. And as well, it's another some kind of dimension tables that sometimes we like to use to have the query within the same only Cosmos DB in that case. You can see that this is an HTAP container because you see the bar chart when it's an HTAP container. In that case, when you have that enabled, you can interact and read that with SQL. So that's a gesture, as we explained before in the presentation, to read the data, select top 100. And you have as well the Spark where you can load into a data frame, create a table, or write back into the operational store as a data frame, or do use change feed to stream data in or out from Cosmos DB. All of that is tightly integrated with Synapse environment. You can see one thing that we like is creating gesture, because for us in Synapse, we want to as well combine code and low code and no code together. So when you have gesture, it's a good starting point for you to start writing code. You have everything set up. And I will show you an example on low code, no code, how it can help your code as well. So we have now connected the lake and connected to Cosmos DB. We can start creating a database. I have a script here. So let me create a database and use master. So I use the serverless SQL pool. You can create as many databases as you want. It doesn't cost any money. You can see that now it's created. Serverless SQL pool have storage, and I will say the storage metadata and compute separated, independent. And this is something that we will bring as well to dedicated SQL pool too. So I have my database. There is nothing right now in my database, no external table, nothing. The next step is now creating views and tables. So here, in that case, I'm going to switch to my IoT data, and I'm going to create a view over that data using it's from a Cosmos DB, as you can see. So I'm going to use to create a view. As you know, we can infer the schema, but here in that case, I wanted to cast daytime in as datetime, not as string. So that's why I wanted to get the schema. So if I refresh my views, you will see I have my DB-IoT data. I will do the same with my an overview on installation. So it's created, it's quite fast. I will show you as well a query, how you can query, how fast it is. So the first query always takes a bit of time. Second, for the system to warm up, because we need to bring compute. It's serverless, but we don't let always like a lot of compute behind the endpoint. So it takes a bit of time, but then if you have subsequent queries, it's much faster. Now you see this complex code. Now I want to create external table over my lake. So you see this code, it's about, really, it's not that complicated, but it's created a file format, create data source, and all of that. I will show you how easy and fast it can be in Synapse to do that. You don't need to build that from scratch. So I have that. I want to say, hey, create an external table. So it's with serverless, and I will call it foo. And I want to use SQL script. So what we do is actually we generate the code that I showed you. So it's a great starting point to afterwards tweak and refine. You know, if you don't want to have 8,000, you can go lower, you can really define it, but a lot of the code is already pre-built, so it's much faster. Your time to insight is faster. Imagine if you do that every day, if we can save you minutes and minutes and minutes, it's hours and days afterwards. And so this is really a great feature that I like within Synapse, is mixing low code, no code, and code together. So let me go now and create the first view of our customer dimension. So now it will be an external table. You see that. And I will create as well two other tables. That's it. So now we have the three tables and of course the two views into Synapse. The next step will be, okay, now I told you I like to query it and I like to refine my queries and get the information that I want before using that in Power BI. So that's what I'm doing. I know that above 4400 in value, a device is likely to fail. And the unit that I want to capture is the revolutions per minute. So that's the unit I want to capture. So that's the first query I'm running over a single view. My fact table, though, that's a large table, and I'm going to run that view in, of course, IoT data, and I'm going to run it. So I want to see the results of that query. So you see that I have those devices that are like potentially defective because they have two times they went above that threshold. So the next step will be, okay, do a join with I want to understand where those devices are located. That's the next query. So I'm doing a join with another table. And now I'm going to join with a third table because I want to get the customer dimension as well. So we did a query across a join across three different tables and views together, pointing from data lake and Cosmos DB. So you can see that the two customers are located in São Paulo, New York, and they are Microsoft and Contoso. So I'm going to now move to Power BI and show you how to connect this database to Power BI and start building relationship across tables and views, and then build a dashboard. So let me go into Power BI. Let me get some data. So I'm going on Azure, I'm going on Synapse. So I need the endpoint. So to get the endpoint, I will go into my Synapse workspace here that I created. You see a workspace has two SQL endpoints, the dedicated SQL endpoint and serverless SQL endpoint. Here we are using serverless SQL endpoint. So I'm going to put that, and I'm going to use direct query and connect. So you see my IoT data that has been, and I take the 5 tables. I won't transform the data, and I load it. We don't need to preview now. So now we are creating the connection. We are already building that from scratch, so hopefully it will go fast, and it goes fast. So you see my 5 tables views. I actually don't know which one now is which is a table or a view. Some are this one and this one are from Cosmos DB, I think. But as you can see, it's considered as a Synapse SQL Server Synapse endpoint. So next step is creating a relationship. You know, the same way I did my query, joining data, I need to do that across these tables and say how they are connected with each other. So device ID and installation device ID are going to be important elements for that. So I'm going to connect its tables and views together. Okay. So we have one relationship, then we will have the other. It's all in direct query mode, so it takes a bit longer. But you will see that performance is not bad at all. The next is product. So I want these two tables connected, customer and product, to be connected. So I'm going to take the product ID connected. Okay, validating. And then we'll take the customer ID that I need. And that's it. We have all of our relationship built. Okay, so now that the relationship has been built, let's go over the dashboard and start building a dashboard. We'll build geolocation where we'll know the location and try to get as well a table to be very similar to the table that we built in our SQL, in our Synapse workspace. So let me create that table here and here. One thing I want to do to be fully transparent is showing you performance when you do drag and drop over that large table in Cosmos DB and dimension tables in the lake. So what I want to do is to analyze performance. So that will be fun. So let's get and start this. So first we are going to get the data. We want to know the location. So we'll go into our installation and let me go here and location. So that's the location. Let us go up to have a, yeah, let's go here. So it took 7 seconds. Okay, let me get the measure value here. I want the bubble size. So here it hits the large table. So it might take a bit longer when it hits 7 seconds. So we see the volume of signals, per location. And I will want to go and put a filter on this one on the customer side. On the customer to say, hey, let's get the value for Microsoft as a customer. So you can see where Microsoft is located. You can see all the performance. Why I'm capturing that, I will show you how to combine as well dual storage mode in Power BI if you want faster performance. So you can go back and forth. Now I'm going to try to find exactly the same elements that we had in our query. If you remember, we had the device ID as the first element. So I'm going to add device ID. The next element, let me go back, my memory is, the next elements are city, customer name, and the count. So city, customer name, and the count. So let me put the city here, customer name. Let's wait, I want to capture all the information, customer name. And then the measure value. We had a filter. We had a filter on unit. If you look at it, we had a filter on units, revolutions per minute, and the measure value, 4400. So let me go over that and do the same thing into our filter. Oh, we have already that here. But that's actually a count that we want here, not a measure. So then we want it to be greater than 4400. This is the measure value. And we want to be units as well here. That's revolution per minute. And that's it. We do a little order by descendant. And you can see Microsoft and São Paulo, New York, Microsoft. Here are the two devices. So that's the performance it takes. To build the report, it took around 15, 20, 26, 31, 31, 36, let's say 50, 61, 60, 68, 73, and let's say around 80 seconds to build. To me, when I build a report, that's fine. When I want as well to refresh, it's good. I want as well sometimes I'm going to refresh to show you how, when multiple queries hit serverless SQL pool, how, it provides the results quickly in an interactive way. Again, there are a table with a lot of data there. The last step in what I'm going to show you. So it took to refresh this full report, it took around 17 seconds. Yeah. So one mode that I like is the ability to cache some information. So you might be familiar with that. It's something that I like is you might cache, so it's import, or you have direct query. Now Power BI has dual, where you can have a combo of import and direct query. And I want this fact table here in that case to be cached, to use dual, not to be cached, to use dual mode. So I'm going to use dual mode just for this table. The rest I want to keep them into direct query mode. I'm going to pause it because it takes time to a bit to take all of these rows. Yeah. Let me. So now I have cached. You can see here. Yeah. You can see the table. The others are in direct query, but this one is in dual storage. Let's see. We had 80 seconds to build the report here. We are going to see how long it will take to rebuild that. So I'm going to delete all of this information and rebuild it. It should be much faster. However, you will see that I want as well to show you how fast serverless SQL is. You will see that the difference is not very, very fast, especially when you think that this is in a serverless mode. We are not using caching or anything there. So let me put that. So here I'm going to use city and I'm going to use the value of the for size. I'm going to use the size here. And I'm going to use a customer name into the filter here to get the customer name that I want. Say Microsoft. Then I'm going to go into I'm going to get the device. Oh, I didn't drag device here. So you see it's fast. I'm going to get customer name. I'm going to get the city, not the headquarters city. And you see how fast the measurement comes when they hit the dual storage. And then I'm going to have the count here and put that as a count. And add the unit. Take this and greater than 4400 and apply filter. And do our. So this is, this is when things are cached. It's fast, but you can see that the difference is not like 100x. It's not even 10x. Because serverless SQL pool is quite good at providing performance out of the box without caching, so you don't have to pay for caching and only pay for what you consume. So this is a bit of a demo using, your two different data sets. Serverless SQL pool will expand its coverage to other data sources. As you know, Synapse Link will also be brought to other databases. Our goal is to make this very, very simple for you to connect and build your connected data hub in Synapse and build your report, build model, train, do some AI. So that's it with my demo. That's it with my presentation. I wanted to thank so much DPS for inviting me to present about Synapse Link. This is really awesome, and I wish I could have met you in person. I hope it's going to be next year. For additional data sources in Synapse link, I wanted to tell you as well that if you haven't watched it, watch the video of my colleague Rodrigo on the Cosmos DB side, who will show you as well some AI and ML in a notebook. So please watch that session if you have time. Thank you so much. You can follow me on Twitter, connect with me on LinkedIn. I look forward to talking to you. Thank you so much, and thank you, DPS. Bye.